Welcome. This is Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Luminous Life. I'm live here Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my YouTube channel. You can find me when you search Nourish the Soul, or you can actually find me by typing in bit.ly Luminous Life Podcast. Also, if you happen to miss the podcast, if you happen to not be able to catch the live version, you can head over to any of the major podcasting platforming sites. That's iTunes or iHeartRadio or Podbean or Spotify, and you can actually download the podcast. Okay, so that's how you find me. I'm so excited to be here. I have planned a really fabulous show. We're going to be taking a deeper dive into our understanding of success. So we're gonna be shifting our paradigm, and we're gonna be looking at our inner conversation around success and the perception of if success in our own definition and the way that we're seeing it is easy and effortless, or if in some ways we are making it hard or difficult, and therefore then limiting or in some capacity sabotaging our own success. So before we begin, I want to share with you a little bit about me and what I do. So many of you who have listened to my previous podcast, Nourish the Soul, are aware that I'm a life activator and spiritual teacher. And the thing that I really love to do with people is I love guiding individuals, through their limitations, allowing them to actually see what it is that they have been thinking or feeling or believing that has really been holding them back to living the life that they truly deserve, a life that they feel happy and really proud of. And I love doing this in a sense where I utilize my gifts and my abilities to be able to communicate with spirit and really hold space as this sort of conduit for energy to flow through me and serve as a opportunity for you to see yourself in a different way. So I love hitting the easy button. It's something that I'm really excited to do and would love to do that tonight, and setting the intention to do that with all of you on your perception of success. So what success really means. And I want to know, before we really begin, would you like success to be easy for you? Would you like it to feel effortless? Would you like it to feel fun and something that you can look forward to? Because oftentimes what I've seen and really in my own experiences, that success is something that we will think about as laborious. To be successful, it means that we often have to dedicate a lot of time and a lot of energy and put in a lot of work to reach our personal goals, to reach what we feel would make us feel proud and excited. And interestingly, there are so many, ways that we measure success. And it's different for all of us. So we're going to look at what kind of collective definition or perception we are having of success, and how this can be holding us back from reaching our potential or really giving us the results that we're looking for. So I know if you're listening tonight that you're actually wanting or you're desiring a different result for yourself. And really, I personally believe that it's by no coincidence that you've been drawn here. I know that something greater than ourselves has really brought you into my work, has made you curious about my message, and that there's something on a deeper level, from a soul level, that is drawing you into tonight's broadcast. And there's information that I'm going to be sharing with you that is very important for you to hear and to be open to hearing, so that you can shift in some way your own perception of yourself, your life, and really your successes, because that's what we're talking about tonight. So, do you guys believe out there? Do you think that you have to push yourself really hard to reach your goals? Do you think that you have to sacrifice in some way, an aspect of yourself or your relationships in some capacity when you head out on that endeavor to reach your successes? Do you think that in order to be successful, it means that it's going to require a struggle, that there will be some sort of uphill or kind of climb that you're going to have to endure in order to get to the top? So we hear that a lot, don't we? We hear that in our culture, that successes require us to put a lot of time, put a lot of effort, put a lot of sacrifice into our life, and are, things that are only obtained with a lot of work. And I wanted to explore this on Luminous Life and really help us sort of shine a brighter light on where that definition of success is coming from, because there's lots of different areas and spaces that it prevails in. And I want us to get clear about where we're receiving this message, and really clearer on our understanding of perception. Because what we are beginning to see is that our perception, or rather how we see something, how we, interpret our life or something, is based off of a feeling that we have about something, and it's attached to usually an experience that we've had with this something. So our perception is individual, and it's really, there are so many different ways that we can see something, and no two people actually see the same thing. It's interesting, if you ask even twins that have grown up in the same household and they've had the same parents and literally probably parallel lives, one twin may describe their childhood different than the other. And that's because our internal hard drive, our own mind, actually has different ways of processing and interpreting and understanding. And we have different lessons to learn individually from even a soul level. So we're all here to experience the world not the same, but differently, uniquely, which shapes our perceptions, which then begs the question, if there is the majority of us out there believing that success is hard, believing that it's a lot of work, believing that it means that it's going to take a lot of time and sacrifice, then we are not actually allowing ourselves to express our individual perception of it, but rather what is then a collection of interpretations from people around the world who have engaged in things that have worked for them or things that haven't worked for them. Yet what we want to remember is that our beliefs and what we perceive to be our truths are our own. They're things that we actually have power to determine and decide for ourselves. So let's look at why we hear that then success is difficult, it's hard, because that's a pretty strong belief, and it's quite an interesting perception. And it's prevalent in lots of areas of our society, and not just in business endeavors, but within personal relationships, or within finances, or, within our own, ability to, create happiness, or the bodies that we want for ourselves. So it runs in lots of different spaces. So the first place that we want to look at it is, where do we hear messaging in the first place? Where are the first points of access of messaging around success? Where do they usually come from? And so probably many of you will come to the conclusion, or are stretching yourselves to see, well, comes from our upbringing, where we actually spent our time with people that were raising us and were sharing with us then their values and their beliefs and their understanding. So oftentimes we get our perceptions through experiences that we had when we were little boys and girls. And there is absolutely so much that we can get, and so many gifts that we can receive from our parents, because they are ultimately just these amazing, amazing teachers for us. And they are in many ways on their own journeys of self-discovery, and are sharing their spaces in which they're at in their journey with us, and for a reason. There's a reason why we have the parents that we have, and they're in the place that they're in within their soul's journey. So we may have heard growing up from our parents that, in their point of view, within their income bracket, within their relationships, or within their own, relationship to self and body. Because remember, those are the places that we often hear success is the most difficult, that you have to work really hard. And you may have even seen your parents working really hard. Maybe they worked more than one job. Maybe they had the conversation with you about that why they weren't available for certain things, or why they needed to, have weekends where they were dedicating their time to not just having you do your fun things, but to have to go to work. It may have then been perceived that there's a sacrifice that they're making, right? In order for them to be successfully providing for you, there's a sacrifice that they're making. And in that, you can see that there's also pressure. You might have seen your parents, talking about the pressure, or coping with that kind of pressure in different ways, or, maybe having even a more loose reaction where they were more, triggered or angry by things because they were under that kind of pressure. So there's a pushing element that we might have seen, where we need to climb in order to achieve. And really, you may have heard, and we do get confirmation of that in our schooling too, that you have to prove to others how good and deserving you are of your success. You may, as you go off to school, hear teachers that have, contests, or ways that you receive, admiration, or you get applause for behavior that is good. And so you're proving yourself to them, and you're showing them that you can behave, and that you even are able to reach your goals. I remember on my desk in like the 3rd grade, there was this caught being good, and it was in big letters. And there was a little paper clip, and every time that you were caught being good, you actually got to move your paper clip over. And when you reached the end of the letters in that sentence, you got to win a prize. And so it was this exciting game for me and my classmates, where I was proving myself to be good. So we get that reinforcement that when we are successful, it means that we've proven to others that we're successful, that we showed them we could do that, because we need that approval. So we're just going to let ourselves sink into that and into this conversation, because we're starting to actually hear now the fundamental sort of foundation of where we have experienced and felt the undermining definition of success, where we got it from. and where it was prevalent in our upbringing, really. So if we really break this down, right, if we get really clear about what we're saying, we're looking at where we may have seen it within our own households, right, where we see it in schooling, and we're going to look even in culturally in different areas, around health and finances a little bit later on in the show. But if we just get really clear with ourselves right now, we're hearing that success is not easy, right? We're hearing that it matters what other people think. So we actually have to take that in consideration when thinking about our ability to achieve what we want, our desires. And the desires can be, something like getting a raise at work, or it can be reaching our goal weight, or it can be getting that new home, or it could be getting into that relationship. We can see whatever is your goal, we often are viewing it through the lens that it has to be a sacrifice or hard or a struggle or in some way an uphill battle. And along the way, we need to consider what other people think about our goals, what they feel about it, their opinion of it, and how that comes into play about how we're going to achieve what we're going to achieve. That's a pretty big perception. I mean, it's a pretty big lens to be looking through when you want to achieve something. And when I think about it, actually, it's pretty heavy energy. It's a pretty heavy lens that I would be looking through, and I have in my past. I have looked through this lens, and so I want to explore, the impact this has, and even a broader perspective of believing that the success that we're striving for has to be hard in some capacity and also has to be contingent on the way people react or their beliefs or their value or their opinion of our goal. And so let's look at it, for instance, in pop culture, right? When we look at celebrities and their understanding of success with their body image, right? What we see is that there are many celebrities that we're seeing are actually putting in tons of time and effort into the way they look. So where they're coming from is this perception that you have to work really hard in order to look a certain way. And you have to sacrifice what you eat. You could only have to eat certain foods, and you only have to, have them at certain times and within different periods of the month, or you have to avoid them completely at all. So we're seeing that we're actually understanding when we look at this from this point of view that they have in many ways adopted this perception that in order to be successful in the way that they are being seen by the world physically, it requires a lot of time and effort. And when they get the feedback, right, from their fans or, in the movies that they look great, it confirms that they have succeeded in the way that they are physically appearing. I'll reference like the Kardashians, right? They go out in pop culture, and a lot of times what you'll see on Instagram or in their messaging is this display of their body, and you have to wonder if the display in some way is, a need or desire to reconfirm of, that they're really successful at the sacrifice and time and dedication that they have put into it. And hey, it'd be completely fine if that's the case, but I'm challenging you to actually, think of how you want to perceive success, because that is just their perception. That is what they are perceiving it, and we're seeing that that's a majority of the way people do. But I'm offering you the opportunity to start to wonder or expand your understanding of success from more of an individual, personal, more intimate way. Because I wonder if success could be much easier, could be more enjoyable, could be something that you really have fun with and can be very expansive for yourself if you were to adopt that kind of perception, if you were to open your heart or your mind into that space. So we often also hear this perception of success at work. You know, we hear it from our bosses. If we play hard, we make money, right? Or if we work hard, then we can play hard. That's it. If we work hard, we can play hard. And so meaning if we put in a lot of time, then the cost benefit of that means that we're going to have the money to be able to go on the vacations, to be able to do the things we want. But in the meantime, it means sacrifice, right? And people might even interpret that as having to work really late at their jobs and not being home to see their families. And maybe that means having to go in on weekends, or maybe it means that you're going to have to limit your vacation time at a certain point in the year. So again, confirming this collective understanding, perception, the way we're viewing success, and seeing how it, really impacts the individual, right? And then we see it in relationships too. When you're single, everyone says, well, you really got to put the time and effort into going on to those dating apps. And you should really look at it like a numbers game. You want to really, put a lot of time and effort into getting yourself out there. So I'm hearing then that's a lot of work. That's a lot of effort. That means I'm going to be going on a lot of dates, and it's going to feel like once I get to the top of that dating pile, then I'll find the one that I want, right? Or on the flip side, right? When we actually get the partner and we are in the relationship, we often get the messaging or have been exposed to the messaging through culture or family or friends that the relationship requires a lot of time and dedication and effort in order for our partner to be happy, in order for them to feel safe and secure and wanting to stay with you. So interestingly, we hear this successful relationship is conditional on the amount of effort we put in, the amount of time we put in, and the sacrifice that we have. And it's really based on then the opinions and beliefs of the other in terms of how happy they express they are with you versus them being just happy on their own, and then there is an effortless union between two people who are generating that between themselves, and it just flows. Interesting. I mean, that's the other paradigm, right? And that's why you're listening to tonight's show. You're interested in shifting your paradigm. So it's worth looking at this, right? It's worth exploring, because you can see that when we think we have to work hard to have success, we hear that we have the perception that it is hard work. And we also hear that it's people's values or opinions and beliefs about your relationships or your finances or what kind of job you have or, what kind of house you live in, that's important, right? So we hear that that's also in that perception. But if we just slow down, we just take a minute and actually really hear what I'm presenting to you, that we are believing we have to push against the current, like a boat going upstream. Has anyone ever tried to push against the current? When you're in a stream that's rushing really fast towards you and your feet are in it, and you can feel the water pulling, through your toes or around your leg, and it feels strong. And imagine you having to walk upstream towards the the mouth of the stream where the water's rushing out of. Imagine how that would be. Would it be easy? Would it be effortless? Would there be a flow to what you're doing? No. Actually, when we come from this space, when we are working from this perception, right, that it is an uphill or an upstream battle, or it's something we have to struggle with, we can feel our body actually becoming tired. We can feel ourselves actually wondering when we're going to reach the goal, when we're going to get to the end. We can feel ourselves actually putting in more time, putting in more labor, and we start to feel frustrated, or we even get that sense of defeat. Are we ever going to make it? Is it ever going to happen? Is it possible? Hear that. Before you even go out and actually experience the delight of reaching your goal, you're actually having to limit yourself to this kind of experience. I mean, and it's totally possible. You can, in fact, there's many people have, get through the upstream. You can paddle through it. You can swim through it. You can, really walk through it laboriously, and you can get your goal. You can reach it. But why do you have to put yourself through so much? Why do we make it so hard for ourselves? It's funny, in understanding human mind and the dynamics of the human experience, we often observe humans making life more difficult than it needs to be, more difficult than it's actually hardwired to be, more difficult than spirit or the universe would really desire it to be for you. And it comes back to this notion, this understanding, and I ask you to be open in your heart with this, and to allow yourself to expand upon what I'm about to offer you, is that our thoughts, what we think, and how we feel, they are incredibly powerful. Our mind is like this incredible machine that just outputs information and literally creates databases and produces then results rapidly within seconds. And so coming from that space, the thoughts and feelings that we have actually instantaneously, right, can create something. What we think, we become, right? What we think starts to show up for ourselves. And we've heard that saying in ancient philosophy for probably lots of times, or in many different books, or in podcasts, or in talks. What we think, we become, and our thoughts are powerful. And so if we believe that what we think we create, right, then how we see something like success is how we will create success for ourselves or limit it for ourselves, and perhaps even sabotage success for ourselves. Never really thought about that, right? If we're holding a perception around success that it is based off of how others feel about your goal, what other people think about your goal, their opinions on it, and also then that it's got to be a struggle, it has to be hard, it has to be a sacrifice, then we're predispositioning ourselves to actually set ourselves up to only reach a certain area of success, or just about reach it, or just almost get there before we start to feel defeated or frustrated, and then boom, it's gone. It's sabotaged, right? But we're the sabotager. We hold the belief. We have the power to create and to allow for our thoughts, the way we are thinking and seeing, our perception to be a source of our creation, right? So let's just explore on this and really listen. I have totally been in this space. I wouldn't be presenting this podcast if I wasn't, right? I have been in the place with myself where I literally felt like, my life was a struggle. And that, even opening up this business, in my practice, Nourish the Soul, I can remember when I started the business, when I, was venturing out, I can remember feeling like this is going to be hard. This is going to be, a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of responsibility. And I remember hearing the comments and opinions of friends and family, and though with good intention, they're my number one supporters, their own perception of success. And remember, that has been passed down through family and then culturally. We see it in the movies, on TV. There's no escaping it. We looked at it: finances, relationship, career. Everybody's coming or has been influenced by this definition of success. So I heard them say, do you think you'll be able to make it? I mean, how is that going to work? How are you going to make money? Where are you going to get clients from? And so in that point in time, I was still in the process of mastering myself, of really defining who I was and getting clear with myself about who I wanted to be and the things I wanted to accomplish. So I'm hearing all of these in perceptions of success, and I'm actually, not even at the time aware, but I was consciously sort of walking myself through their dialogue and opening my business in that capacity. And there were, obviously a lot of confidence there, or I wouldn't have done it. And there was a real strong sense of belief. But again, I was in that mastery. I was learning to be in that space. And so it became a process. And for a reason in my soul journey, I needed that. So I started to think, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to get clients? How am I going to make money? And I went into, probably in my first 3 months, like this mode where I literally can relate it to paddling upstream, where I was pushing myself to put my information out there, where I was really working really hard to give my sessions away, and I would reduce the price, and I would give away my work for free. And so in many ways, I started to reduce my value, really, push super hard to get people to come in and be pushy about it in some ways. And you should schedule, and you got to put your time on the calendar, and I need your payment by this time. And I didn't know any better, but when I think about it, I was really putting out an energy that was quite forceful in its current, that in order for me to be successful, I have to work really hard. I have to, make sure I give deals away. I have to, make sure they pay me on time. And I have to sacrifice then my lifestyle for the short term. So I won't be able to get the things that I want to get, because this is the sacrifice that I'm making. So with all of this in mind, and I think you could talk to any small business owner or entrepreneur or big business owner or anybody who's ever gone out on their own, that perception of success was dominating. And it was dominating my conversation. And it got to the point where I felt like this is really a lot of work. Like my passion is a lot of work. And my desire to see this come to life, it's starting to feel almost slightly, is it possible? Or am I reaching a space where I might be defeated? Maybe I might have to get a second job. Maybe I might have to pick up income. Remember, this is like almost going on 4 years now. Like it's I'm definitely reaching now my three and some month year mark. So this is a little bit chunk of time here, but not too far off in the distance. And so I was getting frustrated. I was not feeling, like I was actually successful, even though from outside point of view, I quit my 9 to 5. I had, landed a great space, and I had a handful of clients. Internally, I wasn't feeling success. And so I really didn't know how things were going to work out. And I didn't know if I was going to catch a second break. And interestingly, it's so fascinating that I can see now, looking back at this, that, I got to that point and it drove me to have some really serious conversations with myself and then my teacher, my mentor, the person that helps me actually gain insight on what I'm thinking and feeling. And he just so easily was able to, show me that what my perception was creating for myself. A lack of people paying me on time, clients that weren't able to really afford my services, but because I had given things away free, they were now in my space, and I had to give them what I had promised and or be flexible with their ability to pay. And that it was going to be hard work for me to get more clients, and that I had to email them and make sure that they would follow up. So I was putting in so much time and so much effort, and it was showing physically. I was vibrant and bright again. I'm free from a lot of things at this point in my life that were holding me and limiting me in many ways. But this was a huge learning experience for me. And physically, you could still see that I carried some weight for protection, and that I was using food as a source of comfort, and, that I had some worry in my appearance. I'm not ashamed to say it. It's just a way that when you believe that success is hard, you often will then see that your body actually represents that same understanding, that perception. It mirrors back to you what you're thinking. So we're seeing, wow, what I was thinking actually was self-prophesizing in my life. It was coming to life until I got to the root of what I was believing about success, what I was believing about what was possible. And the moral of this is that I actually had to question my current definition of success, and through that question, what am I thinking and believing about myself, and what do I know to be true, and then what have I collected along the way that is not in alignment with what I currently understand are my truths. And are people's then opinions and perceptions of what's going on in my life valid for a measure of my success? So what is success? Well, I can't give you a definition because I'd be giving you mine. And I'm happy to share with you some aspects of what I think success is. But really, success is unique and individual to you. It has nothing to do with other people. It has nothing to do with making them happy, making them proud. It has nothing to do with how, how hard you work, or, how much effort you put in. Because if we come from that space, we see it actually creates what we don't want. We get more of what we don't want. And so what I would offer you is you want to ask yourself if you want to make success easy. And if you do, you then want to get to the bottom of why you're making it hard, where you have learned that, where you experienced that, where it impacted you and then left you with the perception that it is. You want to actually pull that out and let that go if you choose to. And then we want to actually offer you the opportunity to define yourself in a new way. get a clearer understanding of who you are, what your truths are, what is in alignment with your higher self, and be really solid in being proud of that and confident in that. Because when you come from that space, success then becomes something that easily and effortlessly flows into your life. It feels like a walk in the park. It feels like an exciting day at the beach. It feels like a tall glass of lemonade on a hot day. It feels like you are proud to be walking in the space that you're walking in, not because everybody else sees it, but because you feel it. And that's when the money comes in. That's when the clients come in. That's when, the relationship shows up. That's when, the house, falls together. That's when your successes, which are individual to you, I'm not going to define them for you. You could really want a brand new car, and that could feel really successful for you. I'll be so happy for you for that. Or maybe you want a new office space, or maybe you want to have a baby, or maybe you want to lose 15 pounds, whatever it is. Or maybe you want to spread your message around the world, and that would be success. It doesn't matter how you define it to me. What matters is that you are really excited about it, and you are out of a paradigm that limits you or self-sabotages you in some way. Because in that story I shared with you, you can see how my own master creator mind, the power of my thoughts, put me in a position with my business where I was not reaching my potential. But only I have that responsibility to rise to my potential, to my occasion. Wasn't in anybody else's hands. So what I want to encourage you to do is, if this broadcast has reached you in some way, in which I know it has, I want you to head over to my website, nourishthesoul.nyc, and I want you to schedule a free 30-minute session with me where we can get your headspace clear on your own understanding of success, what you've been thinking about it, and how in this conversation you have a new understanding. Your paradigm has now shifted, and you're ready to actually do a deeper dive and bring yourself to a whole nother level of success. Because let me tell you, you deserve it, and the universe wants to give it to you. We actually live in a time-space experience where there is this incredible power that's supporting and loving us on every step of our journey, and is empowering us to receive what we want with effortlessness, with flow, whenever we so choose to rise to that space and occasion, to let and allow ourselves to receive it. It's an incredible, incredible thought, and I'm going to leave us on that notion tonight. So with love and light, this is Elizabeth Tripp signing